Hey everyone, welcome to a special State Fair edition of Think Big, Do Good. I think for a lot of you who watch our podcast, you're going to recognize this familiar background. We're in fact sitting in the Association of Missouri Electric Cooperatives building here on the fairgrounds. I am joined by their CEO, Caleb Jones, who also happens to be a longtime good friend of mine. Caleb, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Garrett. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for stopping by the co-op building.
Oh, anytime. You know, I think about when our members come, when you all come to the fairgrounds, you always come to the Missouri Farm Bureau building and grab a quarter cup of white or chocolate milk, and then they always make their way down to your building.
Always.
Right?
It's, what's really great about both of our organizations is we get the opportunity, you and I, to really represent rural Missouri. And we've joked about it in the past about how often our memberships are the same people. So we're actually, somebody could, if they want to save some money, maybe fire one of us and just have one person represent rural Missouri.
Well, thanks, Caleb. We're going to cover a lot of ground in this, starting with, Caleb, you've been on my list for this special podcast of people who fall in the category of thinking big and doing good. And the reality is, anyone that knows you, you're a big thinker and you have made an impact throughout your time. But I'd love to just rewind the tape and go back to your upbringing in California, Missouri, because I've heard a lot of stories about you, and you really are kind of the famous son of California.
Well, you're right. I grew up in Moniteau County on a farm. We raised cattle and hogs and hay, and then graduated California, ended up going to the University of Missouri.
Yep.
Got an agricultural economics degree, and then after that, really didn't know what I was going to do, so ended up going out to Washington, D.C. and working on ag policy for a great friend of ours, Kenny Holsoff, whenever he was a congressman. And then ended up coming back for a little bit, got a law degree, and then ended up back out in Washington, D.C., working at the USDA as a presidential appointee. Kind of got sick of all the concrete, moved back home, was elected state representative, so I got to serve a lot of the area that I grew up in, and did that for 6 years, and then ended up working in the governor's office for a little bit before I took this role with the electric co-ops. So really, I've been really blessed to have the opportunity to serve so many great people that are like-minded, that really just want Missouri to be successful and be great.
So policy and politics are kind of in the bloodline. Your dad was a state rep, right? So both of you have represented your area.
My dad was actually a local county sheriff for 20 years before that, too. So I grew up on parade floats, throwing out candy, asking people to vote for Kenny Jones for sheriff.
So, fun question.
Yeah.
What was the first office you ever held growing up?
First office I held growing up was probably in 4-H. I was a member of the Busy Bee 4-H Club in Clarksburg, Missouri, which is a small town outside of California.
Yep.
I think I was parliamentarian first.
That fits you.
Yeah. Very rule follower. How about you?
Well, you're pretty loose, I think. So I was in 4-H as well.
Yeah.
The Jolly 4-H Club.
Jolly 4-H Club, okay.
So I can't remember which office I held first, but I eventually was chapter president. But the first office I held, there was a 4th, 5th, and 6th grade election for the Just Say No Club, and as a 4th grader, I won that race to be the president.
So you took out a 5th and 6th grader?
I did.
That's awesome.
Yes, in my first attempt. You could say I was a little aggressive from the very beginning. Well, I think the same for you.
Garrett, I think serving people is probably the best thing you can do, and to give back to your community. Yep. Obviously, you and I and we often talked about, we have the greatest job in the world of being able to represent rural Missouri. Yep. Both of us, and just having this opportunity, it really gives us the ability to do big things and to think big. And I think we're probably two of the luckiest guys in Missouri to have these.
So Caleb, let's fast forward and let's be in the present. And I'll get a little bit more serious here as we think about just the challenges, the issues that our members face. Some of your folks were here yesterday being recognized as farm families by Farm Bureau and Extension. One family came up and visited with me about the challenges that we face in energy and just how our two organizations have so much in common as we continue to talk about the need and importance of affordable, reliable energy. So talk to our folks just a little bit about that and what's on your mind.
This is obviously the core role of the electric co-ops is to deliver affordable, reliable electricity to our members. I'll tell you, it's getting pretty hard. It's certainly a challenge. The co-ops are up for the task, but right now we're seeing an onslaught from the federal government trying to change the ability for us to do that. Right now the EPA has issued some rules and finalized rules that they're trying to implement. We're obviously fighting them in the courts, trying to get those overturned, but these rules basically forcing us to shut down all of our coal and gas plants across the state of Missouri. What that means for our members and your members are rolling blackouts, unreliable electricity, and the price of electricity obviously skyrocketing. And those are things that we know, we care about. You guys have been great partners and allies in the fight on this. I can't thank Farm Bureau enough for all the help that they've given us in this fight. It's certainly a challenge. We're going to get through this. Co-ops were founded because all the areas in the cities were served by electricity, but they decided not serve rural Missouri.
Yeah.
So a group of farmers got together and decided they're going to do it themselves. And we've made it through building out all of these lines across the state of Missouri, serving all of our almost 2 million members across the state of Missouri. We're going to get through this, but it's certainly a challenging time for us in this fight.
Caleb, as I think through our almost 20 years kind of in the policy space, when I think back to the original iteration of cap and trade in Congress, it was before you were in this seat.
Yep.
But I remember at the time that our two organizations thought big about the impact that we can make in the national discussion, right? And I remember at the state fair, we collected well over 5,000 postcards to carry out to the congressional delegation. You all were doing similar things, and together, the Missouri Electric Co-ops and Missouri Farm Bureau made a huge impact in terms of elevating the voice of Missourians. And you see that even today, we continue to do the same thing. Unfortunately, as we look around, sometimes it can seem a little lonely in this discussion, but yet you guys, our shared members, are always there saying, we guys stick to the basics. Affordable, reliable electricity.
Look, and I think both of our organizations really just want our members to be successful and have a great life and provide for their family. And when you see these obstacles come up, you often wonder who's going to be with you at that wall. And Farm Bureau's been a great ally with us, for us. We're proud to do a lot of work with you guys and have this partnership. I think our members deserve it. Both of our organization's members deserve it. And quite frankly, it's the right thing to do.
I talk every day with our team, our members, about how we're going to bring the kids home, right? Ultimately, I know you feel the same way for your two, which, by the way, you've got a lovely family.
Well, thank you.
I mean, Max looks ornerier than the Dickens, just like his dad, but which is a good thing.
I'm paying for some sins.
Yes, and rightfully so. But, as I think about bringing the kids home, you can't do it without a community that is there, right? And so I want to thank you, what your co-ops are doing to step up in the broadband space. It takes a lot of different entities, but what is remarkable is we're seeing member-owned co-ops step up in a big way. Yeah. So thank you for that, because that is a key part of bringing the kids home.
I think that broadband in rural areas is really what's going to change the economic growth of rural areas. The ability for kids. I used to always say I spent 18 years trying to get off the farm and the next 18 trying to get back.
Yeah.
Broadband is really that opportunity for us to bring our members' kids back home to the farm. Yep. We are very involved in that. Obviously, working very closely with you on getting broadband to rural areas. We've got a lot of our co-ops that are involved in broadband, whether they're the ones providing it or they're forging partnerships with broadband providers to make sure they get on their lines and out to the communities. Talk about a real opportunity. This is a game changer for rural Missouri. And it's one of those we have to continually support, push, and advocate for the future.
As we get close to wrapping up, what are you excited about?
Probably the biggest thing that excites me is what the future of rural Missouri looks like. I see it, and we get to work really closely with businesses as they're moving out from urban areas. They're actually seeking rural areas to build and start businesses. And part of our role is to help them provide electricity, but making sure that these businesses have the opportunity to come to areas that welcome growth, and want success for rural Missouri. And that's probably the most exciting thing for me.
Truly, I know from your standpoint, you believe to the soul that Missouri is the place to live, work, and serve. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about thinking big about what our organizations, what our communities, what our state can look like, and then just simply doing good. So thank you. You've been on my list for a while, not my hit list, my list to be on this podcast because you've got a big heart and you're doing great things.
Well, likewise. This has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Folks, thank you for tuning into another edition of Think Big, Do Good. We appreciate all that you do. Hope you've enjoyed the Missouri State Fair, and we can't wait to see you again soon. Take care.